Oh, recording. Okay, great. And then Erikan just entered the room. Let's see. I just want to make sure she's okay. Hey, Erikan.
What's up?
Yes, you're right on time.
Hi. Hi.
Oh, great to have you.
Thank you for having me. And I'm so glad that things have been ferocious.
Yes, it's been fire.
Yes, fire. We love that.
Yeah. So let me allow you to catch your breath. I'm going to run a few slides and then, we'll transition to you in a couple of minutes, probably in the next 10 minutes maximum.
Okay, sounds good.
Excellent. So great. So guys, welcome to day 3. I wish I could say we still have another day, but it's only, and that's why we have Erikan. She's a specialist in shutting down things.
Oh.
But in a good way, in a way that just like keeps us on a high, like really feeling like we want to change the world. And that's really the whole idea why we have this event. I think it's been absolutely amazing the last couple of days. And this cast, this amazing faculty that we've had over the last few days, Morne kicked us off on Tuesday. And yesterday we had Stephen, and today we have Erikan. So I think it's really been phenomenal, as you guys have confirmed, and the feedback you've shared. And in fact, in the next slide, I'm just going to pause and just hear your thoughts and what everybody feels and what they've learned, what the takeaways are. But absolutely, it's been phenomenal. So let me just pause here as I admit quite a bunch of people who are joining. Probably the question to everybody on the floor is, what has been your takeaway? What has been your big takeaway from the summit thus far? We've not even included Erikan's input. From the 2 speakers that we've had, just unmute yourself and just share, if there's something that just completely blew your mind away. I think, Jeremy, you're ready. Go for it.
Hey, hi, team. Thank you, and hi to everyone, and hi, Erikan. Welcome. Yeah, for me, this was just scratching the surface, for me. It was like, yeah, there's a whole lot to learn, but it was thought-provoking, each session so far. And it has really propelled me to dig deeper into the whole ecosystem of crypto and to see where the opportunities lie. Because so far it's been mostly a linear approach on my side.
Absolutely. Yeah. One other person before I move on. I'm just really gonna breeze on. I won't really be long. Tangi, please.
I'd say the biggest takeaway would be that I've yet a lot to learn about the whole crypto world, and that makes me want to learn a lot more now.
Thank you, Tangi. You've spoken on our behalf. Yes. So I'll just do some housekeeping, and then we're gonna hand over to Erikan to take us, on a roll. And just some updates. I think I've not done anything to do with community over the last few days. I'm gonna do community, and then I'm not gonna do anything at the end because it just gets too hot, and I won't even have, it will be like we just want to end it on a high. So just really our ethos and philosophies that we believe in this, that it takes a village. It's a famous, renowned African proverb. We should actually own it and put it on the blockchain somewhere so that every time somebody uses it, they pay us. But it really takes a village, to do this, because there's too much change, too many things happening all at the same time. And there's no way to keep track of that as one single individual. And that's why it requires a whole gang of us, a whole village of us, wherever we are, with whatever level of knowledge, just our enthusiasm, our passion, or agency, or resourcefulness. And that's really our philosophy, and that's why we have this community. And we are here for the people, by the people, with the people. So it's by the community, for the community, and that's how we move. Now, our vision is simple. I mean, we are not necessarily targeting geeks. We are targeting ordinary, everyday people across the continent. And a lot of it has been advocacy. A lot of it has been knowledge. But along the way, we hope, and I know Erikan has quite a lot to make input to, as far as what is it that we can do? What is it that is out there? How can we be involved in more tangible ways beyond just coins? And the little game we've been playing. So big play is what we aspire to over time. But for now, we've been reaching out and educating people. So I think, yeah, so far, this is how far we've gone. We've reached a number of countries across the continent. Pity we don't really have access to the French part of Africa, the Portuguese as well. I think, I don't know whether we have somebody from Mozambique next door. They're not too far. Oh, we have Uli from Angola, Portuguese. But pretty much, you know, the English part of Africa we covered. And I think, oh, Cameroon, I think we have a few people there. But the idea is really that we reach not only those who are in the continent, but also in diaspora. And I mean, so far, this has been the numbers. And we really just want to reach as many people. That's really the goal. Now, as far as our channels of engagement, I mean, you guys are familiar, those of you who have been regulars, we've been teaching every week on Wednesday. And then we have our Telegram channels that continues to grow and provide an ongoing channel of engagement. And the end goal really is to say, you know, for what we've taught you, you should be able to answer the question of, do you have a personal crypto strategy? And now we are moving beyond that and thinking about, do we have a collective strategy that allows us to win the world and to win the game collectively using the power of communities and the likes? And then the summit is here, you've seen it. We have these recordings available and archived on YouTube. And then I'm thinking of, you know, with a team that we're probably gonna put together a newsletter that allows us to provide, you know, just that as an additional channel for those of you who are learning and would want to maybe take a less aggressive approach. So this is so far what we have as our engagement channels. And then I think, yep, are we ready? Let me see some excitement in the room. Are we excited? Are we ready? Because in a minute or two, I'm going to hand over to Erikan. Let me see. Are we excited? Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready?
Very much ready.
Go.
Great. We are allowed to make noise. We are going to be rowdy. So this is some alter ego, some voice. You know, the first line is actually from Jill Scott, an American poet, musician, writer, that talked about the revolution will not be televised, and some creative license has added the other lines, which is the revolution is happening right now, right in front of our eyes. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? That's actually the question. Actually, if we, at the end of this, you should be able to answer that question. What are you going to do about everything that you've learned? What are you going to do about what Erikan is going to share? What are you going to do about this community that we have? What are you going to do about it? Because the revolution will not be televised, but it's here, it's happening. So we've learned yesterday and the day before, and even today, it will be an expansion of that. Blockchain and Web 3.0 and distributed ledger technologies are impacting communities and cultures. They are touching corporations, industries, whether it's agriculture, supply chain, art and media, entertainment, all those pieces. And then countries and continents are also wanting in on the action. We are still in early days, but this thing is going to move quite quick. And I know the favorite thing that Erikan is going to talk to us about is about money, trillions, trillions, trillions. Now, what do you see that is of interest? Gold, Microsoft. Do you guys want to be shareholders of Microsoft? Okay. You can see there what is happening. At number 9, actually, this is a dynamic chart. Check it out, 8marketcap.com. It will show you a picture, live picture of the market cap of Bitcoin. And this is just a representation of, I didn't have time to do the broader ecosystem of crypto, but it's really telling you the revolution is happening and it's picking up pace. You know, we are talking trillions, trillions, trillions. And it's gonna, I mean, Bitcoin alone is gonna surpass gold in another few years, probably, I don't know, is it 2 or 3 years from now or something? I mean, Erikan will tell us about it. Now, without further ado, this is the moment you've been waiting for. And Erikan is in the house. Those of you joined, and I will introduce her in a minute. She's somebody who's phenomenal. I took the liberty to use this picture when she was speaking in Bloomberg, like, I don't know, is it a month or so ago? Just really talking about her venture and all this revolution that we've been talking about the last few days. She's somebody who, you know, she's just lovely. She's amazing. No. She's just cool. Erikan, I hope you'll speak to us is the language. We're really excited to have you, and I think loved you from the moment we connected, and it's such a thrill to be part of your communities. It's a thrill to be connected to you. Thank you for the honor of accepting our invite to speak to our community, and you bring everything that you are, and you have the liberty, really. I mean, the room is yours. I don't care what you say. We're just here to take notes and be inspired. Over to you.
All right. Well, I appreciate you. Let's give him a round of applause. Everybody, please. So much love, so much effort put into this experience, and we don't take it lightly. It's just one of those things where you just kind of need someone to say something that just triggers a thought or idea and inspiration, perhaps even a new opportunity for a company or a way you want to show up in your family and sharing all this information. So these spaces being created to create those opportunities to capture those moments that are really important. But I want to actually get us started. Before I even talk about myself, like we don't even need to do that, but we might a little bit. Can you do me a favor? Can you go back to the slide you were just at, the one with the top 10 trillion-dollar market caps or whichever? Yeah, the slide right before this one. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, so hey everybody, my name is Erikan, and shout out to the family up in the building. Shout out to Joshua Taylor. Shout out to just everybody, Charlotte, Bianca, Jeremy, Theophilus, John Paul, Kevin, Denise, Phyllis, Immaculate. If I didn't say your name, my apologies. I'll bring back the love around throughout our session. Feel free to feel at home. This is the circle. This is the kitchen. This is the living room. This is the shade under the tree kind of a moment. And it's especially meaningful to be able to connect with you all because yes, the salon, the barbershop, thank you so much. It's the church parlor. It's all of it. This feels so good because I feel very much like if I meet anybody that I know has African genes in them, I personally regard them as family. So I generally feel like we are family. And as a result, I'm going to speak candidly, and I'm glad to speak amongst African family because I know we can have a very strategic and intentional conversation. So the reason why I wanted us to go to this slide is so we really don't miss the facts of this slide. And what do I mean by the facts? The facts are actually very unassuming. So we have gold. If you know anything about the gold trade, or at least a portion of the history of gold, particularly held in the United States, it actually came from Ghana. So Ghana is considered the Gold Coast. It was considered the Gold Coast because of how abundant the metal, precious metal of gold was. And it was a part of the trade that was brokered between colonizers and local community people in Ghana when the slave trade was happening. So it was essentially it was essentially one of the currencies that was used, that the Europeans used to take and then actually seed Wall Street. So Ghana's gold was the startup capital to seed the American economy, which is considered or heralded as the world's largest economy in the world. So I really want you to just acknowledge that portion of the global economic history that was sourced from Western Africa. Okay? Apple is this multi-trillion-dollar company at which people are over here jumping over moons and cattle and all kinds of things, rubbing pennies to come up with some coins just to buy an Apple gadget. But Apple, and including Microsoft and Alphabet, are companies that rely, and majority of companies here rely on batteries. And batteries are obviously an essential portion of any piece of technology that turns on the technology. The most important element in a battery is called cobalt. The world's greatest supply of cobalt, 66% of the global cobalt supply, comes from the heart and center of Africa, which is the Congo. And so you can call it vibranium, you can call it all kinds of things, but again, these multi-trillion-dollar businesses won't turn on without Africa. So that is something that I really want you to keep thinking about. Alphabet, Apple, and Tesla are investors in the cobalt supply chain and the cobalt trade economy, the supply chain of cobalt directly from the Congo. So these are companies that have aligned their interest with the source of what is most important in the success of their business. But we herald the Tim Cooks, we herald the Elon Musks, of course. We can also claim him as a South African, but we don't realize that they don't actually get to be so grandiose without us, right? Without our resources, without what we were blessed to be gifted. And some of our community members don't always know that value relative to the world. And so they do things that don't fully honor and cherish our true value. But it's important that we evangelize this notion of, I see value in you. And the land you come from is so rich that it makes people trillions. So if we make other people trillions, then what is our value? Quadrillions, beyond, like, what is infinite, you know? But all in all, I just want to reiterate that we look to these companies and the leaders of them like they're gods, but I really want us to remember the source of that abundance. It's rooted in where we are from and rooted in us. But then ninth in there we see is Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is obviously the most popular of all of the cryptocurrencies. And I presume you all learned that Bitcoin itself as like a coin is really just a representation of a larger technology that is Bitcoin blockchain and enables uniquely all these amazing things to happen. But my job and my intention for our time together today is to just make you aware of things, especially things that you may not know as much, that are coming, that should influence how you see the relevance of cryptocurrency for you, someone who's most likely based home in Africa. So Bitcoin is obviously on its way. And to be honest, I thought it had already reached $1 trillion market cap, FYI. But nevertheless, Bitcoin is moving, it's doing its thing. And mind you, blockchain is an energy reliant product or experience or technology. It requires computers and all sorts of things, again, of which rely on batteries, again, of which rely on cobalt, again, of which rely on the Congo. So just a reminder that all of this is Africa. But Bitcoin is actually about to experience something really phenomenal. And that is because Jay-Z and Jack Dorsey have recently put together a fund called the B Trust Fund, which is essentially a Bitcoin fund, which their plans are to give Africans and Indians, all 54, hopefully coverage across all 54 African countries, plus India, grants to develop technologies, companies, sort of whatever it is, on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. So what does this mean? This means that you yourself, if you are so interested in doing more than just trading, holding, buying, selling, cryptocurrency, if you yourself are so inspired by the things around NFTs or DAOs or DeFi or so many other things, and say to yourself, you know, it would be kind of cool to see what we can do with creating a DAO centered around Bitcoin or something like that. If you found that interesting, very soon you'll be able to apply to get a grant, no strings attached, to get a grant to be able to build something cool on Bitcoin. Now, why is that important? That's important if you think about the African tech ecosystem, and feel free to take this screen off. Thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate it. That's important if you think about how has the African tech ecosystem grown in recent years. And so as I explain the importance of Bitcoin and this fund, I want to introduce a little bit about my story. So I'm your girl, Erikan, okay? I'm from California. Shout out to Joshua. I'm born and raised in California, proud Nigerian babe all the way down. We don't switch that up. That energy stays the same, okay? Also love a good Ghana, have lived in South Africa. Shout out to KwaZulu-Natal and Valley of a Thousand Hills. And Mozambique's one of my favorite African nations. And one day I will get to Cape Verde, and Morocco has some of the best massages in town. And I'm very much an African woman, and what I mean even beyond that is I'm certainly a woman of the diaspora. So I've lived in Brazil, That was actually the first Black nation that I've ever lived in. My first Black nation that I ever went to outside of the United States was the Bahamas. And y'all talked to Stefan the other day. And so my life's journey has been one of tracing the multi-trillion-dollar impact on the global economy of Black people everywhere in the world. And it's been a curiosity that I didn't quite realize was happening until I learned a little bit more about how much we actually influence every economy, but we don't see those trillions of dollars in our pockets. But ultimately, nothing really moves without us in terms of as simple as cobalt and light switches turning on and off. And the reason why I mentioned the Bitcoin piece is because 2015, I moved to Nigeria for the second time, and I was a part of the Lagos tech ecosystem in its earlier days of this current movement, this current iteration, which was the dawn of fintech companies and technology companies that are now sort of enabling and accelerating Nigeria specifically to be able to become what it is. So at the time, 2015, there were three things that happened that were instrumental. And I swear I'll get back to the Bitcoin piece. One was Andela was recently formed at the time. So this was Ian Alua Aboyeji contacted Jeremy Johnson and was just like, we need to create a company based on training developers across Africa to build technology businesses, because the more developers that we have across Africa, the more shots the continent will have at building successful technologies that really solve African problems and create solutions for Africans' greatest challenges, in addition to creating multiple multi-billion-dollar successes, which will inspire and activate another generation of entrepreneurs and developers who will then say, if that person could do it, then I want to do it. And therefore that cycle then began, where a company decided to train as many African minds as possible to give them the skills and peace of mind to build technologies, some of which have now become the developers that are now fueling the next iteration of a lot of the tech innovation happening across Africa, in Nigeria, specifically in the fintech category. So because this ecosystem was created for developers, we now have a new dawn of multiple billion-dollar successes, in this particular case in the fintech category. So some of those companies are Flutterwave, which recently achieved $1 billion valuation in March, Paystack, which was acquired by Stripe late last year, and many other companies that are on the horizon, Chipper Cash with their $1 billion valuation, and there are many more. There's some companies out of Egypt as well that are bubbling and that are moving great things. But a lot of that is driven because a company decided that they were going to train the next generation of developers and create essentially more Mark Zuckerbergs. That was the whole tagline. So that was really amazing. So now fast forward to, and then the third thing that happened in 2015 while I was there, in addition to Andela getting formed, also what was happening was this tech boom that led to the fintech boom. But then also what was happening was the recession hit. And so when I was in Nigeria in 2015, I was working at a startup called Tastemakers, and I had a client had that was based in Nigeria. They were a tourism company. They had $15,000 worth of Naira, which is the Nigerian local currency, that they wanted to send to our CEO in Brooklyn, but they couldn't send it because the recession had triggered a shortage on the dollar. So that meant that no business, doesn't matter how big or God you were, no matter how bossy you were in Nigeria, if you were trying to move dollars, you couldn't move it because the central bank had decided that its central reserves needed to be guarded and protected, and the most valuable currency in its reserves was the dollar. So it was like, bump our currency. That thing is a lost cause at this point. We need to hold on to the dollar like it's what? Like it's gold. That very same thing that its neighboring country was abundant in and then actually gave away to then fuel the very economy that we are now holding its currency as if it's gold in our own reserves. Do you see kind of how that trippy little cycle thing just kind of went down just then? Let me know if you understood what I just said. But ultimately what I was saying is that many African countries are still beholden to foreign currencies and they treat them like they are gold. Now let's get back to that Bitcoin. So Jack Dorsey and Jay-Z are like, all right, cool, let's give people grants to build developers to build on Bitcoin. This grant program is going to be very similar to Andela, meaning it's going to create a explosive effect of now engineers, designers, developers who are versatile in building on top of Bitcoin to create African solutions for Africa's problems. And what did I say happened after Andela created this developer ecosystem? You had multiple multi-billion-dollar fintech companies and more that were able to leverage that talent source to create solutions for Africa's problems. So as a result, this is going to be something that will be released soon, and I'm closely connected to some of the musings and the timeline there, so I'll do my best to make sure everybody here is the first to know the latest information. But ultimately, I say all this to say, one, get your Bitcoin positions sorted, because Bitcoin will increasingly skyrocket with now there being incentives for people to build on top of it and build new multi-billion-dollar technologies. But also, this creates an opportunity for Bitcoin, not financial advice, appreciate you. I'm just saying, get yourself sorted. But all in all, this also can be an opportunity for Bitcoin to become the substitution for the reliance on the US dollar or any other foreign currencies that many African nations are beholden to. And this is particularly important because Bitcoin itself is a currency of the people. It is one that is not particularly regulated or controlled by any particular party. And so if it is the substitute or replacement for our existing African fiats and international fiats, then it can finally mean that we can be on the same playing field. And if we then are building the best companies that the entire world is consuming because we were given grants to incentivize this opportunity, then Africa becomes the center for innovation for the next 100 years. And so I say that because it's important to pay attention as you think about the future of some of these currencies and how you see certain strategic institutional plays being made around them, but also so that you get encouraged, so that you realize that there's so much potential for what this means, more than just holding on to it, more than just like, oh, did I buy the dip and not buy the dip? Like, there's a macro opportunity here that I just want everybody to be really cognizant of. And think about in terms of like, what do you want your position to be in the next 100 years? What granted, we all may not live another 100 years on top of whatever big age we are today, but all that to say, like, what role do you want to be? Do you want to be a developer? Maybe this is your chance. Maybe this opportunity that's pending that will come out easily in the next 100 years, hopefully right in time for the release of Black Panther, which will be a great moment. Do you want to be a developer? Do you want to be a designer? Do you want to just be a trader? Do you want to be an artist? Whatever it is, enjoy and dream about all the different ways that you want to participate, because something special is about to happen for our collective continent and the global consciousness around Africa. And I just want to make sure as many people are strategically prepared so that we don't feel like we're missing anything, so we don't feel like we weren't ready for this great opportunity. I want everybody to get themselves sorted. So that was one thing I just wanted to share in context to what Tim had there around, those 10 companies and those 10 entities. Just let it be known that all of those entities start and end with Africa. That's the point to be made on that. And ultimately, outside of that, I am the founder and managing partner of a new crypto fund called Audacity. And Audacity is a movement. It is on a mission to build the next 100 years. That is like our thing. That's what we say all the way. We always talk about building the next 100 years. And that really comes from a place of recognizing that specifically Africa, but not exclusively too, there is so much, we have so much resources, from diamonds to cocoa to chocolates to so much stuff, obviously cobalt, that it's really our time to leverage Bitcoin, leverage blockchain, leverage Solana, Ethereum, DAOs, NFTs, oracles, like all sorts of unique, gnarly things that this world brings to make sure that it builds the 100 years we want. Like, we literally don't have a reason to say that government is not doing this, that, and the other, one thing or the other. Like, we don't have the excuse to say, that, I don't have access, quote unquote, to certain opportunities. If you have Twitter, you have access. And that's a very real thing because Twitter was banned in a place like Nigeria. And even still, people are using VPNs to gain access. So you all are obviously a sophisticated group in that you recognize that you're in and you're participating, you're ready to go. But this is just a message to share with your loved ones, because at the end of the day, I'm having a conversation amongst peers. I'm not better or less than any of you, and you're not better or less than any of me. We're in an experience and opportunity right now where you all are connected to various communities and villages and tribes and peoples, and you speak with different tongues. And it's so important that everybody in this room gets empowered and emboldened to evangelize for other people in your community and all those great things. So I wanted to next kind of learn, and we can open this up again. Feel free to raise your hand, comment, whatever it is. But I wanted to just share with you what, as an investor, I'm seeing that is happening for Africa. And I'm kind of curious to learn from you all what you think you're seeing in terms of what is the future of crypto for Africa. This Bitcoin opportunity being one of them, but there are a few other trends that I wanted to share with you that I can also share with you in relationship to my experience building a fund. So Audacity Fund was recently created just a few months ago after, oh, hey, crypto tutors. Audacity was created a few months ago after myself and a wonderful human being named Kai Sheffield, who's the head of cryptocurrency at Visa, decided that we really wanted to build an intentional community of Black people around the world building the new crypto internet. And, he and I went to college together during the middle of COVID. I just sent him an email being like, yo, we never talked like ever in college, but like, what are you doing now? Like, what's your vibe? So, 10 years later, after seeing him in dining halls and stuff, we connected and we just decided we're going to build this community. And so this community came together, and this community is now called Crypto for Black Economic Empowerment. And some of the people in this room are a part of this group. If you are interested in participating and joining this community, you can go to cbee.xyz. I'll type the name of the address, I'll type the website. I just did in the chat there. But ultimately, this group became a pretty powerful group in a very short period of time. So essentially, one person invited another person, and another person, and another person, and just snowballed to a bunch of people adding all of their epic homies, and all people from across, I think, 20 plus countries from all over the world, like literally Japan, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Brazil. We have some folks in Germany, like literally all over the world. And everyone more or less falls into at least about 4 categories. One, they're either an executive at a company, they're a crypto executive, they're a crypto investor, they're a crypto artist, or they're a crypto entrepreneur. And so at the end of the day, we kind of looked back, my friend Kai and I, we said, wow, this is like almost the new Black Wall Street. We're kind of like the crypto Black Wall Street. And if anybody's not familiar with the history of Black Wall Street, I can share briefly, literally just about 100 years ago on the date, there was a thriving Black community and Black economy called the Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a specific district called Greenwood. And this community of people, just like a few decades out of slavery, became so successful at commerce that many people were millionaires in this local community. So being a millionaire today is no small thing, but being a millionaire in 1920, a few decades, maybe call it 30 to 50 years outside of slavery, where people were picking cotton and stuff, that means that person was probably the equivalent of a billionaire today. And so there was a community of multiple Black people that had just recently come from slavery that were equivalent of billionaire status in one locale. So we owned everything in this town, and a group of haters, let's just call that straight up, a group of haters actually raided that community, and they bombed that community. So unfortunately, it's called the Tulsa Massacre, and that was when the Black Wall Street was more or less demolished. So literally almost 100 years, almost to the date, 100 years later, here comes this community called Crypto for Black Economic Empowerment that in some ways has a spirit much like Black Wall Street, except we're more crypto native. And at that point in time, we had just helped an artist named Micah Johnson generate $1 million in sales in NFTs in 1 minute. So all of these amazing minds, all of this amazing energy of people, in addition to Micah's extended network and his own community and stuff like that, all gathered on Clubhouse. And within 1 minute, this is early stages of NFTs, right before Beeple did his $69 million thing, which like took NFTs off onto its joyride. But just right before that milestone was made, this amazing community of people, of which a significant portion was Black people from all over the world, helped generate $1 million in 1 minute for this beautiful, amazing character named Aku, this little boy who dreams of going to space. So that experience really showed the community, and Crypto Tutors is in the house, so I'm assuming that's fancified behind that name Crypto Tutors, who was also in that room, who's also part of CBEE. And it really showed us, this is again, the technology at that point was very new to all of us, but ultimately it's to say that we really realized, wow, if we bring our money together, we can make each other millionaires, like in minutes. I mean, that's the same million that we're saying 100 years ago was something that people had fought so hard to get, and we just helped someone generate that in a minute. And so for me personally, that experience led to a lot of people calling me and asking me to be the CEO of their companies. And it was clearest then at that point in time that, okay, if I'm being asked to be the CEO of that company and that company and that company, and these are companies that are quite successful today, that have raised a lot of capital, then that probably means that maybe I should, instead of being the CEO of one of them and not all of them, instead, maybe I should invest in each one of them and give them CEO level strategy and support to ensure that they're successful. So this was right around mid-March. And by the end of March, top of April, I decided to go out and raise the fund called Audacity. And so Audacity it took about 3 months to build my confidence and also scrape some friends and some relationships and some strangers together to say, hey, I'm going to raise an initial vehicle of $1 million. That was the original goal, to raise $1 million, similar to what we had done for other members of our community. And I wanted those investments to be predominantly focused on Black and African leaders, crypto leaders around the world. So fortunately, within a 2.5 month span, that $1 million commitment rolled in, and I was able to share the announcement on Bloomberg, which is the piece that you all may have seen and or was referenced in the presentation earlier. And since I'm now actually in the process of raising a $20 million fund and have made some initial investments over the summer. And I'm grateful to say that Audacity is now more than a fund, but it is also a media entity. So we have a media vertical, we have a community vertical, and we have an advisory firm. And so just in 3 months, an institution has formed. And so I want to just reiterate and almost pause there to give you the reinforcement that there are so many roles that you can play in this new internet. There are the roles of, buying and selling and trading your USDT, or, tracking the news happening with Binance and everybody trying to shut Binance down. Or you can be the messenger to inform your community, or you could be in yield farming, or you could create a hedge fund, or you could be a venture investor, or you can create a DAO, or you can, create educational experiences. There's so many different things that you all can do. But to be honest, at the end of the day, I actually think they're all the same job. Like, they're all the same role. If you are someone who builds community, you are easily someone who could become an investor in multiple ways, where you build a community, that community now has a lot of ideas, and now you see that community becomes a demographic of people you actually want to put a reasonable investment into so that they could go build their dreams. That then effectively makes you an institutional investor. And then you can now go to those same people and or me or other people and say, hey, I'm thinking about raising a fund. I don't really know how to do that, but I have all this deal flow. I have all this pipeline, which really just means you have a network of people that you think have some pretty bright ideas that could actually be pretty lucrative. And you are now well positioned to be an investor. The reason why I say this is because a lot of us, especially women, I'll just call that out, are naturally very communal. We're naturally, and not exclusively women, but I'm just saying like women in particular tend to be kind of a very communal, but Joshua is an amazing community builder. Tim, you're an amazing community builder. All of us should join forces and run investment vehicles together, in my opinion, because we have access to community. We have access to people. We have access to having a voice to many, one-to-many type of reach, which can inspire how people form their ideas, how people gather amongst themselves and create teams that it can eventually create the Andellas, the Flutter Waves, the Yearn Finances of the world that actually and generate you significant wealth, us as people who are investing in you significant wealth, and most importantly, your end users, customers, or partners significant wealth. And that's like a gift that keeps on giving. And increasingly in crypto, to be very honest, there's a lot of money running around. And so we should really feel like we deserve to have either money be invested into us, or we deserve for people to give us money on and have us invested on their behalf. So my true spirit is to inspire as many people to think about, what does your role as an investor look like? How do you want that to work? Because ultimately, whether you're a developer, if you're a founder, if you're a student, if you are a life of the party, if you are any of those things, you have an investing future ahead of you, because you are someone that happens to be around a lot of great people. And ultimately, a lot of those great people are probably going to go off and do great things. And if you're able to give them a little bit of resources, some encouragement, some good strategic advice, and an investment via capital, you could actually increase your chances of building wealth by simply believing in the people around you. So that was my experience in building this fund, and I'm happy to talk about kind of how we think about making investments and all that other stuff, but I actually want to pause and just kind of engage with y'all and hear some questions. What are some of the thoughts that are coming to your mind? Do folks here see themselves as becoming, maybe do you see yourself as an investor already today, which I would assume and hope that you all do, just because you might already hold cryptocurrency, which makes you an investor of an asset. But do you all see yourselves wanting to build and invest in projects that could actually change the world forever? Is that something you've ever thought about? Is that something you see yourself doing one day, but maybe not today? Do some of the folks in the room maybe think you don't quite have time to do that now? Maybe you have kids, maybe you have a family, maybe you're in school, but if certain opportunities presented themselves, you would like the chance to do it. I'm genuinely curious, because I want to just ensure that I'm being a resource to enable you and instigate that journey coming sooner rather than later, because we need you. Essentially is the short of it all. We need each other, but we especially need people who've gone out of their way, late hours in their day, wherever you are in the world, to listen to this conversation right now. If you're clearly committed more than most, and I want everybody to feel affirmed in those little activities that you might do that are signs that you have something special and that it's worth cultivating and nurturing. So I'm gonna just kind of go through some of the comments and kind of pull up some things, but I'm open to answering any questions if folks have. And I think maybe with some questions, I can also share more perspective on generally what the phone was like, but then I'm also afterwards, I'm happy to explain just straight up what I see being like the next 5 years of crypto for Africa. So I'll pause. Anybody have any questions? I appreciate the shout out around the swag. That's fun. And let's see, proud of you. Thank you for that comment, Tim, around trailblazing. Collaboration over competition in this next wave. Absolutely, Joshua. Yes, many new founders, many new investors, lots of new energy coming along. I'm curious to learn from you all. How do you decide that a company or a person or a new technology is worthwhile? Immaculate, feel free to unmute yourself. I see your hand raised.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it, Immaculate.
Wow. Erica, for me, I just want to commend you as a woman. I am so excited. I mean, I'm just screaming on my own in my house, because you have made one point that there is hope for Africa.
Yes.
And when you said about our currency, we think that the dollar is everything. I remember in 1970.
Oh, we lost you. I think you're somebody's covering the mic.
Sorry, I said in 1979, I was working in an organization that we had to deal with a lot of foreign currency exchange. And that time, the Nigerian naira was stronger than the US dollar. You know,
Yes.
it was actually 0.83 something, naira for a dollar. Whatever happened that now the Nigerian naira is 500, whatever. There is something about this empowering the Black community. And I just hail you, Erica, go for it. I'm backing you up. I'm joining you.
Yes, let's go together.
The revolution is happening.
Yes, beginning now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And Immaculate, your point of view is very important because I'll be honest with you, like my perspective. So everything you see of me is a result of my family. There's a result of my family members. So thinking about 100-year timelines, my brother's an entrepreneur and he told me like 6 years ago, Erikan, you and me as brother and sister, we will think on 100-year timelines. We will do everything that we do to ensure that we make a legacy that lasts 100 years. So that idea didn't come from me, it came from my brother. So this fund is almost a tribute to him and this confidence he put in me and emboldened in me. But my father told me stories about the 70s in Nigeria. And he told me the before and the after. Before oil, and after oil. And he told me about the high life days, the days when the Nigerian naira was sweeping everybody, where every educator from around the world flew to Nigeria to be a professor and a teacher in Nigerian schools and universities because it was the giant of Africa and it was leading the way and creating brilliance that for literally 50 years has still remained true of the Nigerian brand, which we export a lot of intellectual capital. I think more recently, due to the just constraints of being in Nigeria, it forces you to be aggressive about getting your dreams out, which could lead to a lot of intellectual genius. But those were some days where we really got to experience what it meant to be on top. And also the downfall of that experience is what I've internalized a lot since I was a little girl, of just being like, well, how come a great nation can lose its bearings? Like, why? That doesn't happen to the US. So how's that work?
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Say it, Black Lives Matter. And so also one other thing I just have to acknowledge, and this is an important thing that we may or may not be consciously aware of, the reason why cryptocurrency is so important for us as a community, especially to remain encouraging and loving of each other, is because in the past, when revolutionaries and amazing minds of our hue and complexion have tried to do bold things, it has been stopped. And it has been stopped in various orders of magnitude. As I mentioned earlier, 100 years ago, we were destroyed. Like, our community was completely demolished, and that means death and all sorts of things. And so that in many ways triggers to next generations, don't be great. Don't be beyond anyone's imagination. And I'll be very honest with you, I wanted to start this fund 4 years ago. But I was scared because I didn't know if me as a little Black girl from Nigeria who has a long ass name that nobody can say, I didn't know if it would be safe to do something like that. But after, 2020, RIP to George Floyd, but all of the awareness that generated across the world, and I saw multiple billionaire Black economists speak out finally and come out and have a political stance, I said, well, if they feel safe, then maybe I could go do some things. And then once Crypto for Black Economic Empowerment came on, I just was like, we're a community now. Like, we can't be destroyed. Like, we're all going to do amazing things. And if we could create a community that's so rich in love, then like, hopefully everybody will know that it's love if you fuck with us. Like, it's good vibes over here. Like, you don't need to be scared. Come hang out. You know what I mean? So I thank you for sharing that, Immaculate. And I just wanted you to know that the work that you were doing and the things that you were doing then are going to inform your own strategy and your own relationship with crypto in immense ways. And I can't wait to help tell your story.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Any other people on the floor who want to ask? Please. Go for it. I'm not gonna filter anything. Just raise your hand or just unmute and go for it.
The US is next, don't worry. What do you mean?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Like kind of like you said, right? Like Nigeria was killing it in the 70s, which I did not have a lot of knowledge about. So I'm a nerd. So I'm definitely going to look into that more. Hi everybody, I'm Joshua Taylor. I'm based in Houston, Texas. What's up? You know, I'm United States born African American. But
family, that's what I see.
Gang all day. But I think that every empire, I don't think history shows us that every empire has its rise and fall. And so the United States is just at that point where we're plateauing, where George Floyd was a great event for us, even though like he passed away and it's not in vain, but like all the things, the social issues and all the contracts, the financial instability, that it seems like the US is great and almighty petrodollar is powerful. We have a lot of chinks in our armor as a nation. And so over the next decade, you're going to see the continent, you're going to see third world countries, you're going to see a lot of the second rate countries come up more, specifically places like India as well. And so that's where Jay-Z, Jack Dorsey, a lot of people, as you know, China has been in Africa for like a decade, right? Doing what they do, looking for new opportunities. And so it's just a part of history. Like, and then like I was on my podcast, this guy, he should be in CBE. He's a Black VC lawyer based in Bangkok. His name's Corey Harris. Found him on Twitter, of course. But he was talking about how we are so short-term minded, but if we look in 100 years of history, people are always migrating for what? Freedom, right? Whether it's like people coming to the US or different parts of the different, historical parts of like African history, like we're always searching for freedom. And I think just like Erikan saying, like, I finally feel like brave enough to start Audacity, right? Like that's a mindset of freedom. Like I can do this because I'm free in my mind to do something. So I think like Africa as a continent in its different ways, I'm still learning about the continent, so forgive me. But like, okay, we're realizing, okay, we can build amazing companies for our villages, for our countries, for our, different areas, for our people, right? And it's just that next shift of like the cloak being decloaked in a sense. So like that's why I say like the US is just like the time, like the US will still be a power. It's just like we won't be number one anymore. Like it won't be just America, like it's the world. Like, and that's the great thing about crypto. It's like it's truly borderless. Like the amount of friends or colleagues that I've been able to meet, especially through CBEE or just crypto as a whole, it's like I literally am getting colleagues and friends in every continent, multiple countries. Like that's how the world should be. But especially like in closing, like for Africa as a whole, like I really see it being our time. And that's why I'm very passionate about Audacity and like just us meeting today and the continued work that's going to take on the continent, but also here in the States and Black people everywhere. Because as Erikan knows, right, just because we have this opportunity of like decentralization, you still see a lot of the early crypto world, like being very white at the top. And so that's something that I think about a lot, is like, how are we educating the masses to not just invest in trade, but to build and to own these spaces and these new ecosystems.
Yeah. Oof. Josh, come home.
Josh, yes.
My bad.
Truly. That's for real.
Yeah. Wow. Maybe just, quite honestly, I think, Erikan, I think you and I have spoken and obviously part of the CBE. And that's the reason why we're doing what we're doing with the crypto community, is to really say, if we can rise to this moment, if we can rise up and banish our own fear, banish our own doubts, reach out to the next person, we can really do amazing things together. And that's why we're saying, again, it takes a village. This is African ingenuity at best. It takes a village. We've done amazing things as communities over the centuries. are now saying in the world and in the spaces of money, in the worlds and spaces of innovation, in the worlds and spaces of building, whether those are companies, new type companies, whether those are decentralized, code-powered kind of structures, DAOs, as we learned, or even just really democratizing access, because that's really a big challenge. I mean, if you look at the listings of Amazon or Facebook or whatever it is, we can't steal access from Africa because of so many barriers. But here is an opportunity through crypto that you don't need to ask anybody's permission. I know the banks are trying to block people from accessing these opportunities, but thank God they really can't stop the revolution. It's an opportunity that really you cannot say, you cannot have an excuse not to participate. And I think I've kind of, hinted to the guys of the community that we're going to build something together beyond just sitting on Wednesdays and learning and buying coins and all of that. I think we really need to build something together and maybe work with you, Erikan, and how can we make money, because that's really the whole idea. We want to empower, uplift, and just really switch on the next generation and just enable things, in our communities.
Yeah, so in that spirit, I love that and support that and endorse that. A thought that I want to encourage everybody around is a lot of the world's perspective is influenced by the United States, Europe, and even for those in South Africa, sort of the South African infrastructure is oftentimes like the proxy for Africa. But I think ultimately, this is the time for imagination. This is the time for crazy ideas that no way in hell that's a real thing. No way can those two things be put together to be meaningful, let alone lucrative. Today is that day where there are no crazy ideas. There are no things that are unbelievable or impossible. And I only say that to say that I think it's very easy, especially for Africans, to just copy what they see being successful in the US and or China. And I'm not impressed with that. I'm just going to state it plainly. So if I really think, and more people, we have so much of abundance of solutions to build that will inform the planet. I'm not interested in another NFT marketplace just because you feel like you didn't get the flavor or shade or color of NFT marketplace that you need. Time is your most valuable resource. Trust is the greatest currency of them all. How are you using your time to build greater trust in you as a mind that you can create revolutionary solutions for the world? And whatever is created in the United States will be a pinch of salt relative to the global series of opportunities and things to build, because the United States has so much infrastructure that, people get excited about, text messaging apps. And it's just like, there's nothing wrong with that. But you could create a whole new way to pay farmers. And that be a completely new way of how, quote unquote, low wage workers around the world get paid. And so the majority of the world is quote unquote low wage or just, regular, schmegular people trying to find the most effective ways to be paid for their services, their products, and their labor. That's an important solution that has a global impact all over the world. Some parts of the world don't have smartphones to be buying these smartphone text-based apps. So it's a cool solution in a US context. Sure, it'll be overvalued and all those other things, but like if you find a solution for your community in Uganda, that can go to Peru, it can go to El Salvador, it could go to Ukraine, it could go to Malaysia, it could go to Egypt, it could go to the Congo, and you can make money. And so like I say all that to say that really be reminded that you are literally the next solution builder. You are the next hero of so many more people, because frankly, the majority of the world's population is increasingly going to be from Africa. So it's urgent that you think about ways to solve unique problems for Africa, and then think about how they can apply to other similar markets where similar problems or similar solutions have an opportunity to flourish. So I just say all that to say that because you see a bunch of different crypto exchanges making a lot of money, you're welcome to create a new crypto exchange. And I think you should be encouraged to do whatever your spirit and your purpose is. But ultimately, what could we do be in addition to crypto exchanges that no one's seen before? Could crypto exchanges become the new way for you to create your own passport? Like, why wouldn't those two things exist together if you're already hanging out a lot on the crypto exchange? Or why wouldn't there be DAOs for farming? Why wouldn't we have ways to fractionalize ownership of diamonds? How could we all become part owners of diamond mines? Like, these aren't things that are going to come out of the quote unquote innovation hubs of the world because they don't have these types of resources and problems to solve. So I just want you all to be encouraged to solve local problems that have global impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my babe had something. She had raised her hand. Go for it, babe. You want to ask something?
Yeah, I'm just in the middle of understanding everything what Erica is saying. Thank you, Erica, for gracing us and just telling us a lot about how we can really invest. So my question is, okay, because now you're talking about
that's this baby in the back. That's the one. Yeah. That's the next generation. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about the background. So, Erica, okay, you've talked about the gold, you've talked about the markets, which and the dollars and everything, and the currencies. So what in to pinpoint for newbies like us who really want to invest, how can you advise us to know where to which lane to go to and invest, or which direction to go to and invest? Now that we are talking, hey, we are talking and we're looking forward to enable our African continent. So us as African who we don't know, okay, we know little about crypto, but I'm just asking, what can you advise in this age of investment? What can you pinpoint and tell us, hey, if you look at this end by many years to come, your money will, your crypto will have grown, such. I'm sorry, maybe I'll put it in a very layman's language, but no, yeah, sure. I'm also learning. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that question. I would love for you all to think about your money growing through crypto in a few different ways. And they are not as intuitive because they're hidden behind some jargon. So first and foremost, you can buy coins or buy tokens. And Bitcoin is an example, Ethereum, Solana, Aku, when they release a token for this little boy character, will be a coin or a token that you can buy and hope that it'll appreciate over time. So that one category, buying something and hopefully seeing it appreciate over time, is one category of investing. And so within that category, I think there are a few things for Africans to think specifically about. One, do I have a personal investment in seeing this particular coin, project, token, protocol, blockchain succeed? So one, it's okay to follow your own interests. That's totally okay. And that will influence how much of your own reserves or resources you put into that thing. So it might be that you say, Bitcoin obviously is a standard. I should put a lot of money into it, but maybe I think Ethereum also might be pretty good because it's a better alternative to Bitcoin. Or maybe I'm going to put into Solana because Solana will be a better alternative to Ethereum. Or maybe I want to put into this NFT project focused on African women because I feel like I finally feel seen in artistic works, and it looks like it could become very valuable given the way this project or team or crew or community is really gung-ho about it. So I think ultimately deciding, one, what are you willing to care about for an extended period of time could be helpful. Two is what do you sense its team around it to be to ensure its success? It's essentially like making a good business decision. If you want to put your money somewhere, which you should probably take seriously in the event that you don't have money to just throw around. Think about, okay, well, who's behind it such that I believe that they'll be able to execute effectively and grow the value of this asset. And so essentially that's going to be really, really important. Thing is, Joshua, everyone has always been an investor. That's just the fallacy in the narrative where people made you think that some group of people in the sky somewhere were the only folks that could invest and that we couldn't. We've always been investors, especially as Black people, because we popularize technologies, which means we pick good companies, we pick good products, and we're market makers. Anyway, that's an aside. So all in all, back to you, Phyllis. So you want to just think about what types of companies are you going to want to follow for a while and be excited and read the press and read the updates to know like, oh, okay, cool. My pick is doing well. My pick is doing well. And that can be in the form of a, you know, straight up blockchain related coin like a Ethereum or Solana or a Binance Smart Chain or Cardano, but it could also be connected to like an NFT, which could be, you know, a product that you are really energized by and excited about, and you think long term the value of it can grow up and go and grow. So that's one category of investing, but another category is actually staking your holdings. So essentially, if you have, you know, $100 worth of Ethereum today, or, you know, $20 worth of Binance Smart Chain today, or Cardano today, you can actually do something called staking, which allows you to earn greater yield on that money. And most bank accounts across the world don't generate you not even 1% of yield or interest on your money that's being held in a savings account. And so for you to generate between, call it, I don't know, 5 to 30% APY, aka yield and growth on your money, that's a great way to just trigger some passive income on the investments you would have made already. So if you would have bought Bitcoin because everybody said you should buy it, might as well stake it as well, so you can get a little bit of a bump on that, and all of it compounds in the end. So the third category is lending your crypto to what they call liquidity pools, particularly in the category of decentralized finance. So essentially there's platforms called Aave, AAVE, and Compound, and several others that allow you to say, wow, okay, cool. You have maybe $20 worth or 15 Rand worth of Binance Smart Chain. Amazing. We'll lend that to this pool of money and tokens swirling around, and we'll also give you back a percentage of that money while it just sits there. So it's essentially this theme and concept of self-driving money. It's this notion that I hope those initial points that I gave you helped you identify projects and things that you really care about, that you're going to be energized over the foreseeable future to kind of stay updated on and track the progress. But while you have bought it, might as well put it to work without you doing much and have it generate more money for you. So a few examples include staking, lending, and another category, which is much more high risk, but certainly worthwhile, which is called yield farming. And yield farming is essentially this concept of you are essentially putting your money at risk. So it could be that your money goes to zero, but you're going to give your money to the protocol or the technology that you're operating with, and you can pick the levels of risk that you want to put your money to work at, but essentially it can generate between 10% yield and in some cases 7,000% yield. So if you, for example, wanted to try out a larger sum of money, maybe you got a bill, maybe you got a gift recently, or you got a bonus in your income or something like that, you might want to try putting it towards a little bit higher. And this is, again, not financial advice, but I'm just saying, in the event that you wanted to try smaller, large amounts, you could actually see a pretty significant multiple in the event that you try something that generates, call it a 500% yield in a short period of time, which could be 5x on your money, which is much bigger than even a 12% yield, which is what staking would traditionally provide you. And then another category is actually providing your assets as collateral. So NFTs, for example, can be used as collateral in the event that you purchased NFTs or any other social tokens as collateral, again, still in a lending fashion, to help you generate loans that you can then leverage for various other purchases in your life that, so say for example, you own an NFT. Let's say that NFT is valued at 100 Rand. And you say, okay, cool, I'm gonna use my NFT as collateral, 100 Rand, to get a loan against that collateral. So now you can use that loan to go pay for whatever it is you need to pay for, that hopefully generates you even more money, so that you can now come back to that NFT that as collateral, grab your collateral, pay the loan back, and now have even greater difference on your money to now put to work. So I answered your question hopefully much more than you were probably expecting, but I said it because I think it's important for us to remember that there's levels to this, and there's more to it than just buying, selling, holding, hoping things go up and being sad when things go down. Like, there's ways for you to always consistently, without much effort, some education and some research initially, but without much effort, to still generate yield even when the price of your value is going up and down.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So I know we don't have a lot of time. I see Theo has lifted his hand. You'll go for it, Theo. I just want to ask everybody on the floor, if you can type your question, if you want to ask a question, also raise your hand if you want to speak. So let's do that, because we have probably another 15 minutes before we shut down. We want to make the most of Erikan. So Theo, please go for it, and then raise your hand or type, so that Erikan can be able to answer that directly. I'll actually avoid speaking for the next 15 minutes so that it flows. And Erikan will just take them as as your hand is raised, he'll just ping you out, and yeah. Theo?
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Erikan, as well.
Yes.
Okay, so you did answer some of my question with the last response you provided to the last question. But then my question is, do you foresee any of the coins or tokens ending up as a currency in the future? And the reason why I'm asking that, from the beginning of these of this old lesson, you spoke about gold in Ghana and how it was taken to build stuffs abroad. And that has been the base of our problem in Africa, from Libya to Zim to Nigeria. We sell our crude oil to someone and they give us dollar. So if they tell us $1 is 500 naira, you can't argue with him. He's the one holding the dollar. So do you foresee one day maybe Bitcoin becomes a currency, so everybody in the world is now spending Bitcoin, and I mean that way we get more value for our resources? That's just what I wanted to ask. What's your view about it? Do you see us having a decentralized currency very soon, or somehow in the future?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm curious. Thank you for asking the question. I'm curious to know your thoughts more than even mine, but I'll happily answer. I think in many ways it's happening, to Joshua's point in the comment section. It is happening in different forms, and it may not stick in every place, but frankly, me myself, I'm not even the biggest like Bitcoin person, but I just know that it has a big brand at this point. It's like Google, it's like Apple, it's like the biggest known company of all the different crypto companies, if you imagine them like that. And as a result, it's increasingly getting a head start in building trust. And ultimately, I think there's three key stakeholders in the way the global economy works. And one of them is governments. And the next category is businesses, small and large. And then the most important category, which is kind of the bottom of the pyramid, the biggest base, is everyday people like you and me. And so I like to think about adoption of crypto as, mainstream currency and sort of like long-term potential in terms of how well are these cryptocurrencies appeasing those three tiers. So is Bitcoin kind of reaching the masses? Yeah, I think it's actually moving quite fast, probably faster than most in terms of being the first entry point into cryptocurrency for most people. So I think in that case, you might see it become currency between individuals, peer to peer. So you could say, our bank accounts don't talk to each other. Let me just send you Bitcoin for you doing this service for me. that could be a way that it becomes our currency. And that's how Bitcoin originally started. But if you're saying, could I buy egusi soup, or could I now buy, can I buy things for a wedding with Bitcoin? Depending on the buy-in in that local area of the government, and then of the businesses in that locale, in that area. So for Africa, I think we will see, especially with this Be Trust Fund and many other initiatives, I think let's give it 5 years after, El Salvador having done what they're doing, give it for about 5 years. We'll at least see one country really say we're going to hold Bitcoin in our reserves. And we're going to, essentially make an investment just as much as JP Morgan is out here making investments. And it's just a financial asset at the end of the day that will generate yield, will increase, that nations want to participate in so that they can grow their reserves. Fundamentally, it's just straight business. So when we start to see nations and cities embrace cryptocurrencies in their currency of commerce or in their bank accounts, essentially, I think that's when we'll start to see greater ubiquity of one or multiple types of currencies being the common currency between people. But ultimately, the whole point is that we don't have to wait for that. So it's all still currency. So I have a growing team, and I pay those people in cryptocurrency. And it's just, we're just piloting it. We're just like, okay, like, you want to help me do this one activity? Okay, cool. I'll pay you in Bitcoin for it. Thank you so much for your activity. Here it is. There's a currency. Now it's already happening. And I let that person pick what currency they wanted me to pay them in. And so it could have been Solana. It could have been Cardano, but I think it's definitely happening. Truthfully, I do think, though, that Bitcoin will become the lingua franca cryptocurrency, and hopefully that will officiate us being all in a global economy, assuming that we're all participating in the Bitcoin economy.
Yeah, I agree. So Immaculate, you're going to ask your question, but I want to challenge you guys to really think about the earlier part of the keynote from Erikan around the venturing and, raising money and, kind of starting something. So I don't know, I hope we'll have somebody before the end of this summit just say something on that. So I'm just queuing you up. I'm just challenging your thinking around that. So go ahead, Immaculate.
Erica, mine are just two questions or comments that you may or may not have an answer. You started off with the Congo and the resources that are in Congo. And I'm aware that Congo is one of the richest, if not the richest, country in the continent of Africa. It also happens to be the poorest country. It's very, very ironical. And because of that, most of the Congolese have actually migrated to the French-speaking countries. And so the resources of Congo have become like a free-for-all. The Chinese will go and take the United Nations, and they take the raw material and they process it and then bring it back to us and sell it to us. And it's a pain that I have because I got from the beginning, you have a passion for impacting the African community for wealth creation. What, in your advice, would you say would be done in a country like Congo so that we retain the resources in Africa, not to live like we put embargoes, we put strict measures so that it becomes kind of like impossible? That's one question. The next question I wanted to ask is that because the fiat economy is getting like afraid of the cryptocurrency, I say that, for example, in countries like Canada, where I live, you can't buy cryptocurrency with any of all the major banks have blocked. You cannot trade the cryptocurrency with the big banks. So as a result, it's like I want to buy something. I actually had to ask Tim one time to buy for me from South Africa because I couldn't buy with my RBC card, for example, in Canada. And I guess it's because the fiat economy is losing their interest as people migrate from the fiat to cryptocurrency. So what would you advise? We need a revolution. We need a voice that will say we don't need restrictions. So much so that in Canada, they have even blocked, you cannot open an account with Binance.
Right.
So
right.
Those are the concerns that I have, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those are good concerns. Um, Ultimately, I think it'll take multiple approaches, particularly related to the Congo. You have to understand kind of what contributes to that wealth gap. And there's legacy families that are, it's their interest to kind of keep things as is. And there's government leaders that have benefited. I have been hearing, though, that the current governor, excuse me, president or leader of the Congo is trying to make a change. I've heard that reaffirmed by multiple people. So I think us letting ourselves have a bit of optimism is at least a starting point. And I think we have to understand how these supply chains work so we know how we either work with the powers that be or don't. And so I don't have a direct answer for you, but my initial thought is what does it look like to raise funds from, call it, 1 million people around the world that want to buy out existing families and players in supply chains that we know are exploitive? Just as a thought. So, like, if everybody put the equivalent of $10, in your respective currency, whatever that is, or, whatever 0.0000 whatever Bitcoin together, 1 million people, which I don't think is unreasonable to get 1 million people over at some period of time to get excited about something. If we were to all put in $10 worth of Bitcoin together, could that enable us to buy out certain players? And maybe they wouldn't sell, maybe they wouldn't do whatever, but then if we then have that resource, we've now shown ourselves that we're actually more powerful than that entity itself. And we can do some things with that. So I think ultimately the exercise is us experimenting with what our power is collectively. And I know that's not the most direct answer, but I think so much can happen in us learning how to organize ourselves and deciding what actions are done collectively. So a decentralized autonomous organization is really the set, literally, I said it as you said it, are literally the example of it takes a village just on the blockchain. And so it is our ability to gather 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, maybe 50 core people and 1 million followers connected to this DAO, but ultimately where our decisions as a community, what happens with our treasury, who gets voted in and voted out are all clear for everyone to see. And it could be such a great knowledge bank where you, Immaculate, and Kevin, and Redmi, and Theophilus, and Mbualo, I want to get this right, Mbualala, maybe? Can you feel free to say your name so I can make sure I honor it correctly every time going forward? But like, it could be an opportunity for us in a DAO to organize ourselves and challenge each other's thoughts and ideas. But when we get it right, that becomes the blueprint for every other organizing body around very high stakes types of decisions around these types of things. So I think that's something to experiment. Also, in terms of Canada and Binance and banks, I also think this is a use case for crypto altogether. Like, we don't need the banks. That's actually the point.
Yeah.
Like, we just need each other. So
Yes, I agree.
the fact that you could hit up Tim, and you're in South Africa, right, Tim?
Yeah.
And you're all the way in Canada. Nobody had wanted you to do that before because they wanted to catch your fees going through them, right? And so the fact that you said, oh, but you don't know I have a village, thank you, baby, but no, here's my transaction, Tim, handle it for me so I can be up here in these crypto streets. That's what you made a decision to do that. I actually think we should feel empowered by that. We can actually feel emboldened by that. And truthfully, the fastest growing sector across Africa of crypto, anything, crypto transactions, trades, purchases, buys, is peer-to-peer. And so this is a reminder that it is the village always, before, forever, last, finally, the beginning, up, down, left, right, center, that is the most important thing here. So it's almost, we have to respectfully decolonize our mind to say that this is bad. Why won't you let us do this? It's like, oh, actually, you won't let me be great? Thank you. I'm going to go right with my people. Like, Okay, cool. Thank you. Because it's our money. That's the thing. Like we give our money to banks to do what? Charge us fees? Like it's our money. So it's just a reminder that we've always been our own banks because we've always had our own sources of money. We've just put them in banks because we were programmed that was what we were supposed to do. It's good marketing.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying on mindset, because I mean, we need to decolonize our mind and de-institutionalize, because I think we've been so rigidly fed and kind of made to think in a certain default way that has not really been helpful. Yet again, in African settings, if you needed fire, you went to your neighbor, you never went to the bank. If you needed salt, you went to your neighbor, you never went to the bank. So the same thing, concept applies with money. So it takes a village. I mean, we were able to buy the coins here and I sent it to her.
And look at that. Look at that. Like we are oftentimes positioned to not trust each other. Yep. And now you all have inspired me by Immaculate, you just asking that question. Now I feel, you know what you did for me? Because just a few weeks ago, I was really struggling to make a transaction. I felt so much shame because I couldn't execute the transaction. It's not in my control. The bank says it's closed and they take 7 days to make the transfer. I shouldn't feel like a failure because I didn't time that the bank needed 4 more days to turn USD to euro. Why would it need 7 days to turn USD to euro? I can send Bitcoin in 4 minutes. I felt shame literally a whole weekend. I was sad. You see how that psychologically can affect us? When I reached out to somebody, I said, hey, I'm a little nervous to ask you, but I really need help with doing a transaction. He was like, cool, no problem. Let's get it done. And I didn't know that I could ask for help like that. Because psychologically we'll start to feel like, oh, well, they think that I don't have any money, or, because I'm some investor, or I'm this or I'm that, should I appear like I have everything together? But like the point of this is peers. The point of this is village. So you just affirmed me to know that you had a challenge and you reached out to your community and got resolved. That emboldens me. So your question was actually a testimony that supports me. So thank you for that.
Wow. Tangi, time is running out, but allow me, guys, we're going to stay a little bit, out on this one. I won't just close at the top at past, which is literally 2 minutes away. So allow me another 7 or 8 minutes or so. Tangi, please ask your question. And if you have another question, somebody just please raise your hand or type it. Yeah. Tangi, go for it.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. And my question would be to understand what it takes, in your opinion, to make a regular African citizen use this technology, as they don't have necessarily a smartphone or a computer. Maybe you can elaborate on that. Thank you so much.
Yes, y'all. Maybe that could be a project that we work on together, because the majority of the world does not actually have smartphones. We have mobile phones, but not smartphones. We have feature phones. So it's like how, on top of not having a smartphone and being a regular person, your priorities are different. Like my priority is to get on this call and talk to y'all about crypto, but like somebody else's priority is like, do we have enough food around the table today? And that's never something to be ashamed of. There's systems that have created that reality for people. And so the short of it is I don't have an answer. However, I do think that's where culture comes in. So my first time in South Africa, I was blown away by how much 50 Cent was the rapper of choice in my friend group. I was in KwaZulu-Natal, Valley of a Thousand Hills, in this random restaurant with some regular guys, nothing crazy. They weren't even impressed that I was from the US. We were just, just talking shop. And they were like, Tupac or 50 Cent?
No. That's illegal. That's wrong.
I said, sis, what were we comparing Tupac to 50 Cent? And so I just was like, all day Tupac. This is not even a question. And so they were like, no, 50 Cent is everything G-Unit. Like, I was like, oh, wait, okay. And so that experience was 2012. And another experience, I was in the Bahamas and I heard people playing the song, teach me how to dug it, teach me how to dug it, teach me how to dug it. Anyway, that song was very popular at the time. So at that point in time, that was when I realized the value of culture. When you can walk into a certain place and you see Barack Obama and the entire Obamas on the wall, I was like, this community has already told me that they don't have many TVs, they don't have much technology, there's barely light. But somehow or another, the narrative had gone so far in this village that they found some way to get a print image of the Obama family. And when certain people know about Oprah, but there's only one TV in the town, you know, I'm just like, okay, there's something about that. So my point of this is, it is so important. The thesis for Audacity is we are in the era of the earning economy. And it is this notion that by consuming culture, which is what we all do, we all listen to music, we all, you know, watch some form of imagery in be it on our phones or our TVs or whatever it is. How could it be that you can earn cryptocurrency for your activities that you would have done anyway? So could it be that new TVs come out that allow you to earn crypto based on how many hours you're actively, I don't know, that could be a silly idea, but like that could be a new way that people actually are participating in this economy in a organic way. And ultimately, I don't have an answer for you. I would love for us as a community to work on those things. But particularly with the phone barrier around people not having smartphones, I think rewarding people for their consumption and their use of things that they would have done anyway with a token that we're telling them has value that they could transfer via SMS to local currency in the event that they needed that now cryptocurrency to be turned into cash. Like if that's the simple communication, hey, you know, you went to this event and, you know, it could have been just a football match or something like that with your kids. Maybe you all were in the outside parlor, outside of the stadium, watching in a small TV or whatever it is, but somehow or another that activity helps you generate cryptocurrency. Additionally, we have to recognize that cryptocurrency and blockchain are technically different things. And blockchain itself is infrastructure that's important for any society. So identity cards, real estate ownership. So buying land and having land is big in African culture, right? So having your own land, setting up your ancestral home, all those things. So it could be that somebody acquires land and they get an NFT to show that they own that asset, that they own that land. That could be the way that we have cattle. Cattle is not only a piece of trade, like it's people trade cattle, but it's a sign of wealth. How could we tokenize so that people are able to show how much their plot owns in terms of cattle, and that information can be shared or communicated or documented in some sort of locale so that even our villages, our most rural villages have some sort of record keeping that the community itself has ownership in. So I want us to also think about crypto and blockchain more than just like an asset going up and down, but as being connected to technology that is just digitizing everyday things in our lives, like our ID cards, like our titles, our cars, our tickets to get on trains to go from one place to the next, our access to events, our ability to use certain technologies, etc. So that's maybe a way.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Eric. And I think there's a last set from Kevin. And then I think there's a nice jibe from Theo on NFTs for land disputes in Nigeria. Okay, it's gonna be
Yeah,
interesting.
definitely NFTs for land disputes in Nigeria, 1000%. So we don't have these 419 boys coming.
So I think there's Kevin, do you want to voice your question or should I just read it? I don't mind either. So or you can just read. See, Erikan, fantastic session. I wanted to hear your thoughts on two things. Joshua's comment in the chat, how we exponentially grow Africa's technical talent beyond the likes of Andela. And then the second one is the Cardano project and how it's targeting the African continent. I probably presume more your opinion, because I mean, I know Cardano been talking big, and I think they're doing something in Ethiopia. I think that would be probably the last one for today, unless somebody's really burning. But I think, yeah, just your thoughts, and then we wrap up.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So Joshua's comment, how we can exponentially grow Africa's technical talent. Exponentially. So, you know, money talks. And so I think there are certain people and initiatives that are building blockchain ecosystems. Like, I mean, this community is one of them, but like officially groups for people to learn Solidity and other different like programming languages, so that people can actually be building things originally from their own minds, given the language and programming materials to actually create things. But what would scale that is capital. And so while this is not the only way for this to get done, I do think my point earlier about the B Trust Fund and being a way for various Africans and Indians, of course, but Africans to get grants to build ideas is going to be really meaningful. So that will be exponential, because it's 500 Bitcoin. So obviously Bitcoin's down a bit, but you know, let's say by the time it's released, Bitcoin goes up to 60. So that's 500 times 60K. So that's 30 million. So that's 30 million, let's call it, you know, split across 55 countries that are all quite massive. 54 in Africa, 55 as India. Ultimately, that could be a way to accelerate exponentially the developer ecosystem and technical talent. I think, to be honest, Andela itself expanding its educational offering to crypto related programming is going to be meaningful. I don't know that they'll do it, but certainly something worthwhile. And I think schools, that this could be a harder one, because I don't think that the continent wide our education systems are really up to date on these things, but it could be that. Ultimately, guess what? One of you today could create a really solid educational course, upload it on Thinkific, get a few people to go through the program, and if you have enough success stories, you could go to an investor, you could go to someone and say, I would like your help in putting 25K towards this so that we can market this program online to as many people on Facebook as we can, so we can increase the number of signups for this course. I think that's the easiest way for us to start to see traction. So if, for example, you want to create a course on the many different course creation platforms that allows, it could be it could also be a YouTube video. I saw yesterday a Solidity YouTube workshop. It was 9 hours, the video. I was like, you better believe on a Sunday, I'm going to go through this 9-hour workshop, because I need to at least get the language down in my mind, and YouTube is a start. So if all of us turned ourselves into media entities and increased the algorithm of Africa generated content around Bitcoin, around blockchain, around cryptocurrency, around Solidity, around programming, there will be more stuff that anybody who just Googles anything crypto in Africa that will come up. And to be honest, I think actually our biggest problem right now is the search engine. We need to fuel the internet with more content of our perspective, because other people that look for us online, aka via Google, need to see us. If they don't see us, then they don't think that we exist. So I think that's one thing to help. To the second part of your question, Cardano project and how is it targeting the African continent? I'm gonna keep it honest with you. I don't really follow Cardano. The reason being is because just from a brand, they don't really speak to me. Like, I'm sure the coin has marked some good progress in it growing. I don't uh I just don't, like, it just hasn't it doesn't speak to me. I'm gonna be very honest, this is nothing against anybody in the house. It skews like the people that get really excited about it skew to me as like a more like legacy mature generation of crypto excuse me, blockchain builders. So it just, frankly, I don't connect with the leaders behind it, essentially is what I'm saying. And that could be biased. So I know that that's not the healthiest decision to like keep my stance on Cardano, but it also has gotten some backlash for partnering with the government of Ethiopia. And so I think there's so much coverage for Africa. I don't sense that Cardano's doing anything that is really like being like, damn, you really get it though. You really get it. You get us. I feel similarly with Binance Smart Chain. Like every time I see an Africa focused Chinese product, I'm like, oh, it's
Oh
not
God.
it. It's not it. It's
Yeah,
not it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just not it. Not because of Binance in China. It's because it looks whack as hell. Like I'm just like who designed it? Like I don't know. It's something about it smells a little off. And so, and hey, that could just be bias. So, I'm not perfect. So, sorry, that's my answer.
Eric, and I must say this, my after comment, and then we're going to be wrapping up soon. Kevin, Theo, myself, I think Julia is not in, and probably a bunch of other people. We are very tech, so we are people who are familiar with cloud and coding and all of that. So I really think, because I'm familiar with, for example, I think a year ago, whatever, there was some entity. Thankfully, the founder is Indian, so that's saved him, but he's American. So they were doing some supply chain traceability solution on blockchain, but it's pretty basic, actually. If you think about blockchain on the back end of it, it's pretty basic. It's nothing really. We talk about blockchain and it sounds like this fancy thing. The only difference is, obviously it's really hot and hyped up and whatever it is. And of course, the height of the hype is the money that is being made in crypto and NFTs and the likes. But it's just, a distributed database. That's what it is. In fact, it's quite clumsy in some other contexts. So the bottom line is we shouldn't be deluded by the language and the storytelling and all of that, as Cardano have done, peer-reviewed, yada, yada. It's just this thing that they are doing and creating a big spiel around it. But it's not, I think we shouldn't really feel alienated that we cannot do something ourselves that can have an impact. I can think practically to the question that Kevin asked. There's a big shortage of blockchain skills. If you're a developer, learning Solidity or Haskell, I don't know who uses Haskell other than Cardano for now, or I don't know, any of the languages. So I think that's something for a professional that is worth. I'm actually getting back to coding again because I'm always interested in architecture of technologies and whatnot. And this is things you can go and do it. I saw some guy who actually learned to code it in 6 months or something. And he was a complete newbie, a new beginner. I can share the video of his story and how he got on with it. And it's something we can learn. And there's just different ways of really looking at this, and we shouldn't be stuck to one way. I think we've been empowered enough over the last couple of days to see from, hacking it in terms of coins, swapping it and pooling it, and all this, farming it, and all these other ways. In fact, I think Erikan, you did a wonderful job of just recapping it to the DeFi, DAOs, and all these other things that we were learning yesterday, to now really thinking big picture and saying, how do we become part of this trillions and trillions of money that is going to be moving, and how can we really build something that allows us to be participants of this? So, yeah. Thank you, Erikan. Yes. Guys, what do you have to say? What do you have to say to Erikan for such an amazing session? Massive respect to you, Erikan. Thank you for giving yourself tonight, your IP and energy. This is true empowerment, Bianca's
that's right.
social entrepreneur.
Shout out to my right hand, Joshua, too. I appreciate that. Also, Joshua and I have a show called Talking Trillions, Talking Teas. It's currently on Clubhouse, and it's at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard for now. So that might be a little late for some of y'all, but you're welcome to join in. And Theo, you said it's poor design, but it works. Hey, listen, rock whatever floats your boat. There are thousands of projects out there. Somebody might like what you don't like. So it's all a thing. So
I like this. I like this. Yeah. Any person on the floor want to just say their comments to Erikan on behalf of the community? Please, somebody unmute. That's how we do it here in this community. I need somebody from the floor, not me. Go for it. Who will do it for us?
I definitely feel it if folks aren't feeling like emceeing, but maybe Immaculate. Yeah.
Immaculate, yes. I actually feel the same way. Speak for us.
For me, Erica, I just want to say that you just rocked the boat for us tonight.
Thank you.
Will not be the same. You are my hero in terms of women. I have carried many things from what you have said. And for the seed that you have planted in us, we will not let you down. And we want to say that this should not be the last time for you to come and address us. It's only the beginning. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I look forward to learning from you all. Listen, if you really spend time with me every day, you'd realize how much I don't know. So you've gotten my best. So it's just to say that it is humbling every day to show up and just try and go a little bit further every day. So thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
God bless you.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks from Denise and everybody. I've posted the details of the community for those of you who've interacting with the community for the first time on the chat. I think I'm not going to drag it any longer. From all of us who made this possible, the community who have always been there.
Yes.
Erikan, you've been amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Come on, Bitcoin Dance Challenge. Don't say dance. I'll hit you up. Wait a minute. Where are you based? We doing this in person or virtually? All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a lovely night. God bless.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye. Thank you very much.